Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick, spiritual life coach and your host of Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. What is the awakening? This is the moment in time when humanity rises up out of the darkness. Who is awakening? Each one of us present on earth today, reclaiming our sovereignty, seeking greater possibilities in our reality and looking for solutions. We know being awakened is not a lofty ideal but a necessity. If we can transform ourselves, we can change the world. Guests on Her Conversations will speak to your spirituality, sensuality and soul. Listen to their stories and hear how they are in service to the world. Let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. I'm excited to share with you my newest offering, Higher Energetic Resonance Spiritual Life Coaching. When you work with me, I will support your awakening to your truth and your innate gifts, aligning to your higher self and being led by your intuition, and you ascending into your fullest expression and living your purpose. You will know that whatever you want to be, do, or have is possible. I intend for you to be unrecognizable to yourself and that your transformation will serve as an inspiration to those around you in this changing world. For more information, click on the link in the show notes or contact me on carolmaywhittick.com. My guest on this week's episode is Ben Grant Mitchell, empowerment coach, creator of Your Ultimate P.A.T.H, Personalised, Affirmations, Theta, Hypnosis, and author of How to Live the Law of Attraction. During our conversation, Ben talks about the subconscious mind and how the media and entertainment industry use their knowledge of its machinations to influence the majority of the world's population, most notably and most visibly to us over the past 3 years. We also discuss the importance of having a goal in life and the power of affirmations. So as always, I begin each episode by asking my guests. HER is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel that higher energetic resonance?
I feel that higher energetic resonance very often and most always when I'm at the beach, when I'm looking at the ocean, when I got my feet in the sand and when I can smell and the breeze and hear the breeze. It's something that I've always felt, and only in the last 2 years actually moved to the beach so that I'm very close and I can go in the mornings early whenever I feel like it. It's and immersing myself in the ocean is probably where I feel it most intensely as well, and just floating but totally submerged. I guess it's probably related to being in the womb. It certainly feels like being in the womb of nature. It's the most natural place I can feel or think to be, and it fills me with energy, and I get ideas and I have to run out of the ocean and grab my phone or something like that and connect back to the matrix. But for those moments that I lose myself in the ocean, yeah, they're blissful.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And before we get started with the conversation, just take a moment and introduce yourself to everybody, and the beginning of your story and how you got to where you are at the moment in terms of doing the work that you're doing.
Sure. Well, my name's Ben Mitchell, and I'm an empowerment coach. This is one way of describing what I do. And I use affirmations and personalized affirmations to help people feel good. But more than that, to get to the subconscious mind. So there's basically two minds, the conscious and the subconscious mind. And I use affirmations and recordings to help people unlock the potential and the infinite creative potential of their subconscious mind. And I got to this point by doing it on myself. Like all mad scientists, or creative geniuses, however you want to look at it, I experimented on myself, and only because it was very natural. Slowly, I started reading affirmations, the ideas that saying consciously saying I am, and similar statements that are in the present can help you help the subconscious especially to embrace those ideas as true. And so a good place to start is by saying things that are true. And like I am alive. All right, the subconscious can't really, although there'll probably be part of your subconscious that will kick up a storm still, because that's the nature of it. But mostly the subconscious, well, yeah, okay, that's true. All right, I'm alive. What else you got? You know, all my needs are met. Oh, well, oh, yeah, you're right. Actually, all your needs are met, but there's lots of things you want that aren't met, you know, and it goes on like this. And there's this battle with the subconscious that, and the conscious mind. So we think we want something in our lives, and we can say it, and we can tell our friends, and we can, you know, do all that. But if the subconscious mind doesn't believe it, and it's not the program that it's used to running on, it just simply won't manifest it, because it needs to collect the evidence to support its worldview. And its worldview, the subconscious worldview, is about keeping us safe and keeping us in what the majority are doing, basically. So it looks out, and the subconscious mind looks out and sees what the majority of people are doing. Doesn't matter if it seems good or bad, or even if it harms us. If the majority are doing it, the subconscious goes, that's what we need to do, because then we'll fit in and we won't be standing out, and we won't be victimized or attacked or anything like that. So a little bit of a tangent there, but so I used to record my own affirmations on, I think it was a mini disc, to be honest, Carol.
Oh, wow.
Remember mini disc? Yeah, they were going to change the world.
Is that pre or post that tape?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I think it was post DAT tape. I didn't have a personal DAT player. I remember going to the studio, recording studios, and they'd put it on DAT, you know, and that was amazing. Oh, look, it's a small cassette. It must be better. But no, DAT tape, that was funny. So then, and I'd play my little mini disc. Actually, the vision that comes to mind is my bedsit in Leytonstone in London when I was living there, because I really needed to find every bit of power I had when I was living in London. A single man chasing his dreams of being a music legend, and so that was great time, but I did need to sort of find every bit of strength that I could, and I found that it really helped to go to sleep, especially listening to those recordings, and then get up maybe and listen to them again, or listen to them on the tube, you know, when there's crazy man feeding himself in a frenzy next to you. Put your headphones on and go to a better place. You know, it's not uncommon for people to do that. Everyone's in another place these days on the tube. But if you can use that time to maybe, you know, reprogram yourself. It's a funny word, that reprogram. It sounds very sort of machine-like, I guess. But if we think about the vibrations that we're picking up, that's part of the programming I'm talking about. The program that starts, you know, at conception really, and continues, especially in the first 7 years of our lives. And they say that in the Bible it goes back that long. You know, give me the child till 7, and I'll give you the man. And I believe that concept is about that subconscious programming, that all the things that you learn during that time, that is how life is, you basically believe, and you go on from there and just collect the evidence to support that view that you've formed in the first 7 years. So I came back from England with this new practice. It wasn't I wasn't fanatical about it at all. It was just something that was a natural extension of me journaling and writing my own affirmations and really deciding what it is I wanted. I had a friend in England who said that we were really lucky, even though we were, I don't want to say struggling, but we were chasing our dream and wasn't always coming to fruition as quickly as we liked. But that we knew what we wanted to do. And he said that was a great thing, because so many people don't know what they want to do. And he was so right, and he's so right, because so many people may feel a sense of dissatisfaction. They may be angry, they may be depressed, but they don't know what it is that'll get them out of that. They don't know what it is they want to do. And so, yes, I was very lucky to have something that I could focus my attention on, and therefore work towards. And in having that dream, it taught me that everything was within me. All the obstacles really were within me, and I might manifest them in front of me, but they're really about what I felt I deserved, how easy I thought that would be or not to get, and so the struggle becomes real because it's within us. And when we start to realize that we can release that need for that struggle whenever we choose to. It may need to take some practice, some self-coaching or some coaching, just to keep reminding us. You might have a realization, okay, I don't need to struggle anymore. But then we go back to it because the subconscious is going, no, yes, you do. That's how you've got to here. You struggle, right? And you find the problem, and then you tell everyone about it, and then you're the victim and you get some attention, whatever you've got going on. And you go, no, I'd like to try a new way, subconscious. I feel like it's a beautiful day, but it's raining. Yeah, but it's nice, and the garden needs the rain. Oh, but you've always got an answer, haven't you? So you go to this, and you should. You need to always have an answer, because there always is one. And you get back to a natural state of serenity, of acceptance, of believing that anything is possible, and it's a beautiful place to get to if you can.
There's so much that you said there that's great. And one of the things that stands out for me, because there's a kind of parallel in our stories, in that we were both kind of going for this music career and this vision of like who we're going to be, and so much was like trained on the attainment of that. That you kind of put it with things that like most normal people would be like, this is really uncomfortable, just being so laser focused on it. And it would be sometimes labeled at me against like, you're so you're so pig-headed, or you've head in the clouds, or because I was just like so focused on the thing that I wanted to do. And I put a lot of effort into it. I put like a good couple of decades into it. If I think when I first got to London, I was working like the typical thing. Eventually I realized working as a waitress was better. It was way more flexible than retail, way more lucrative as well. So I'd like work all these hours in a restaurant in Covent Garden, and then I'd like save, like take my money and then like blow £200 a day on the studio, because that's what it was in the day. And then go and find someone to like press CDs for me, and like get a friend to take a picture and make them send them off in jiffy bags, and then kind of like wait for all the rejection letters to come back, but at least I gave it a try. And one thing I will say over those years, for everything that I'm doing today, the podcast and all the writing and just everything that I'm doing today, and all the things that I put up with in terms of being very single-minded and very clear about what I want, regardless of whether I was successful or not, in whose eyes, kept me really focused, and at least like kept me, when things looked really bad, or when I quote unquote lost stuff, I knew that I never really lost, because it's just like I could always rise up, I could always write another song. Like there was always something that I could do that I could personally find joy with. I was always stunned by people who didn't know what they wanted to do. They'd have I remember asking a cousin, and she was like in this like HR or something like that, and did really well, throughout her career and everything. And asking her, well, what do you want to do, or what would you want to do? And she was like, I don't know. And I think we were both as curious birds looking at each other. There's me like going after this unattainable, unrealistic dream, and then I'm like, but you don't have like a vision for yourself. It's like I can't imagine that. Through all those experiences that I had doing music, and maybe I didn't make it on the TV like people saw, but I had such fun and unusual experiences, and I traveled different places, and I did music for things that were never great hits, but there's really good stories that I can think about, like me and my friends sitting in a car writing a song for someone that we meant to send off that we forgot to do, and then it's like, oh crap, we need to write that song, and literally writing it in my car before we like go off home. Little stories like that of just really trying to keep going, but also having that vision that kept me going and kept me moving forward when the winds of life were going left and right and people were getting stressed out. And it didn't mean that I wasn't getting stressed out about things, but then I knew that I couldn't stay in that place for too long, because I had this thing to get back to. it's useful to have goals. It's useful whether you think that you're successful or whether you think you achieve them or not. I would always encourage someone to have aim for something, even if it's something that isn't going to be a big thing, but have at least something that you're working towards. Otherwise, you're just kind of waiting for the gold watch and the grave, right?
Yeah, and what it reminds me about is that if you don't have a vision for yourself, someone else has a vision for you, whether you know it or not. I think Anthony Robbins might have said that in one of his books. You know, if you're not deciding your future, someone's deciding it for you, or something like that. And it reminds me of the day I was in Camden, and which was 9/11, 2001, and I watched the explosions of the buildings as they exploded the buildings and put the airplane footage in to make it look like they say what happened, but that's another story, maybe for another podcast, I don't know. But anyway, I saw what I thought that was a very, obviously a tragic event, but that was the day that I had my acoustic trip, we called it. It was the Tuesday night singer-songwriter club I ran at the Lock Tavern there. And I had a few people cancel, because they were watching the television or whatever, and just thought they couldn't go on. But there's no way I was cancelling because every Tuesday I turned up there and I cleaned up the dog poop that was on the floor, because the guy kept his dog. The governor had his dog in the pub. It wasn't always dog poo, but that I cleaned it up. I got my incense from the market. I put the candles on, and I made it a beautiful environment so that people could come and play their own songs. And nothing stopped me doing that, and that wasn't going to stop me doing that. And I thought, actually, for me, it felt more important to keep going, to sing to sing music, to remember the power of the humanity in that moment, and to not stop, because what we learnt later was a contrivance to bring terror into the hearts of the world. And so we were defiant, and I was defiant because I had a dream and I believed in it, and I believed in the power of music and the power of community, the power of sharing in a real live room with our fellow men and women. And so that wasn't going to stop me. So did the world know about it? No, but it did, because there's a ripple effect that happens. And when any human heart is in its center and it's activated and it knows what it wants, it knows the vision that it is living for and in, then that heart is felt, I believe. And so everyone chasing the dream, well, people like you and I, who, let's say, didn't make it in the eyes of the industry or whatever, it's because of you and I and people like us that there is such a thing as a dream. That we had the courage to go for something, and some people supposedly make it. Well, of course, still you learn more about when you're in the industry about who gets a helping hand and why they get a helping hand, and what sort of compromises they often make. I won't say always, because I don't know, but I sure know that often they make compromises, and those compromises about who they are, their values, what they're willing to do physically, spiritually, mentally, financially, every compromise to be someone's female dog, to be someone's plaything, because there's often people behind the scenes pulling strings, and I feel like you are like me, and the strings weren't pulled on us, and we were pulling our own strings, and that's something that we've got now, and we will always have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think about 9-10 years ago is when I kind of had a pause on it, because there was this real move towards the internet and the musicpreneur and doing everything yourself, and I was kind of in that whole scene, and working on a solo project and taking my time with someone that I was in a band with another person in. And then it kind of got to a certain point, and then they just left London. I was left with hard drives. I'm like, what the hell is this, And because I didn't even have like a really good computer to do anything with it, and I'd spent like a good couple of years in between just really taking my time. And what I'll say about that period of time is, one, I've still got a lot of good songs that managed to spend the time over, because like I said before, it was like I'd go into the studio at 10 a.m. I knew that I had to be out at 6 and I needed to come out with a fully mixed song. So you know that that's impossible, but you're like trying to get everything done in that time. And now I had the time to kind of take time and go over things and play around with different mixes and get to know the person I was working with, so that when we mixed something, it was infused with lots of musical personal jokes and things that just referred to that whole experience of time. And also it got me knowing myself as an artist, that this is who, if I wasn't rushing towards something and I spent time really exploring what I could do and allowing myself to experiment, where could I be and what could it be? And it's like, okay, this could be good. And obviously that didn't kind of go as far as I wanted it to go in terms of being this like independent musicpreneur. But I learned a lot from that. I mean, when it stopped, and it stopped so abruptly, it was really hard, because I'm like, my dreams, and it took me a moment. And I think for about a year or so, I didn't really listen to music. I was just like really pissed off, really upset with the whole thing. And I didn't really start singing again until I went to India, and I was out there for a month doing a yoga teacher training course. And there was a mantra class that we'd have every day. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to start singing again. I've got to get over myself. You know what I mean? I can't have gone so far and then kind of just blamed it on one person because they wanted to just leave London and go off and play music in Dubai of all places. But another story. But it's just when you're saying about what that perceived success would cost, and there were people that were peers of mine within sports, within music, and within acting, like kind of peers that I knew that grew up with around the same area, someone that was an ex-boyfriend. What really hit home for me was during the course of the pandemonium, whatever, when they were creating different videos to really target different demographics, to convince them that they needed to take on this kind of injection to make sure they were well and everything, that they did one specifically for the Black community. And I remember that going around, and I remember watching it. I saw 3 people that I knew who had supposedly gone on to success, while I was kind of like still struggling, still dreaming, still trying to hustle my way in. And at that moment in time, it really hit me that I hadn't lost anything, because I'd spent so long just going, oh my God, I thought I had this chat. And then suddenly I saw what the cost of it was in order to have what that success was. Because I mean, I never, I'm not in contact with them, so I don't know whether there was a nice check that was presented, probably or not, or it was, we've done this favor for you for the past 20 years of your career, like it's time to pay up for what you've gained for this. So I will never know, because I'm not in contact with these people. But it was a real awakening for me. It was a real shock when I saw that video. I was like, I can't believe it. 3 people that I knew were like looking into the camera lovingly and pleading with us to do this thing for everyone. I'm like, wow, is that really what it costs? So it's interesting when we talk about what success is, because it gave me a lot of release also as well, because I think there was still a little kind of element of me that just going, I didn't do it. And I don't want to, I don't want to try and be like some 40-year-old pop star. Like that's not the tip anymore. So what am I going to be doing? And then seeing that happen, and it was like, no, it wasn't meant to be that, because that's what it would have cost you. And who knows what else goes on. I mean, we have ideas, but all that glitters is most definitely not gold. And the success that I have is the fact that I went for it, and also all the skills that I learned along the way that are now being fused into something that is coming from a place of completely me, not controlled or owing anybody anything, and that I can sleep at night knowing that it's not for the adoration of others who think that it's all good and it's all gold, and behind the scenes I'm, who knows, being blackmailed or being pimped out. It's a murky old business. When you really look at it, it's like, maybe it wasn't such a good idea after all. The idea that's sold is a great idea, but it's not completely like that.
No, and maybe there was part of you and part of me that sort of knew what it was really about or what the cost would be on some level. I know that I was watching a video just yesterday of I think it was Guy Chambers actually talking about doing Robbie Williams, some of his hits, and that sort of, I was there in London around that time, and in fact Robbie's keyboard is played on my first album, The Stars Can See, and so I was close to that, and sort of and an ex-girlfriend really loved Robbie when we were young, and I remember sort of feeling jealous and like, oh, I'm going to be bigger than Robbie, right? And it was a real feeling. It wasn't my whole career wasn't based on that ambition, I don't think, but you know, it was interesting that I remembered that. But what I was thinking when I was watching this video with Guy Chambers talking about these hits, you know, was I also went and saw him in concert at this massive sports arena here in Melbourne, because my friend who'd played on my album invited me because she was doing the gig with him, and I thought, I don't really want to be doing this sort of thing. I don't want to be, you know, music to me is not like, I like to have to go and play night after night and put on the show and be the thing. You know, I started to realise that wasn't what I was in it for. I'm a songwriter. Like, I write almost every day, or it certainly was for a long time. And that's where I get the joy, expressing it and playing it. But it wasn't the showbiz side of it. I sort of learnt through going for it that packaging myself and presenting it with a sort of pretense that the show must go on every night. Here I am. There's a smile. He's the entertainer. You know, that is not, that would be like a prison for me. And I think that a part of me knew that, you know, and I was never giving off that vibe, or wasn't, you know, I had certain things that were offered to me. I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do that. Oh no, that's not really right for me. And, you know, from the industry point of view, you can go, well, then we're not going to invest in you because you won't do everything we want you to do at the drop of a hat, you know, that sort of thing. And so, I think that we were very lucky to have had something that we could focus our attention on, to find out what we're made of, and to find out what commitment means, and to find out that commitment means, you know, whatever happening outside doesn't matter. You know, I'm doing this for me. I believe in this, and I want to do this, because that builds all sorts of muscles and strength and spirit and stamina of soul. You know, if there's such a thing, that is. Nothing can take away. No, 100%. And to kind of make refer to 2 points. One of that kind of, if I think of someone like Elton John, who's always retiring and yet always coming back, and you know, and they're just like this perpetual retirement tour, and then. Retirement tour. Like for 20 or 30 years. And I remember going to see Stevie Wonder at the O2, and like I wasn't even, I haven't really listened to them for a long time, but I'm a Stevie Wonder fan, as in I know his albums, you know, like I know the albums, I know the obscure ones, and can speak on that level with a Stevie Wonder fan. But of course, the majority of people who were there wanted the hits, right? And he didn't play the hits until maybe the last 15-20 minutes. Right. And where he did this kind of run-in where he'd do like a verse and a chorus, and the verse and chorus just kind of bump through to please the crowd. So for the majority of the time, most of the people were just kind of sitting there looking around going, well, this is, you know, and they do, you know, when they do like a long version of September, and or is it called Spain or September? I always get them mixed up. But like, he then gives every one of his musicians like a good like 16 bars to like riff and go all crazy. Nobody cares about that apart from me, who had seats right over the second keyboardist, so I could literally see the chord she was playing. You know, that kind of stuff. But wow. And it must be frustrating for a musician who people just want to hear your big songs, and you know, they just want to hear the hits, and you're like, yeah, but I wrote many an album since then, but they just want to hear the ones that was a big hit that they were when they used to dance around it at school like 20 or 30 years ago. And you know, the voice might not get there, they might have to play it into, you know, a few keys down, and it doesn't sound the same. And absolutely, but the thing is, it is amazing, the power of music, because even
even when you know that you're going to see someone who isn't at their prime anymore, there's something about that connection of that instant that you can pull a memory back, and it can bring you back, and it can remind you of a place and kind of get your mood up, and how powerful. And that's one of the things that always did for me with music, is how powerful it was. It was how powerful it could be when I was writing and looking for the right words to really make myself satisfied, and then also really working on chord progressions and making it sound good, and not just using the same 3 or 4 that everyone just kind of bandies around and writes on top of. And it seems like, I mean, I don't listen to much contemporary stuff now, really, that over the years, that infusion of care and thought isn't really important anymore, especially the lyrics. And I know that, you know, the infiltration and the machinations of the music industry is nothing new. So it's not just kind of popped up now with everyone doing what they're doing. This stuff's been going on for a while, but the qualities there seem to be more musicianship and more artistry then, where now, I don't know if it's because they've allowed technology to take over, or they've just got like a handful of people writing all the hits, that it's just about, you know, if we're talking about messages and listening to things on a subconscious level, just getting these mantras that aren't necessarily good ones, that are just kind of drilled into kids' heads. And they're singing it and they're dancing and they're kind of being free and open and not really realizing what they're telling themselves in that space. It's such a responsibility that maybe people do or do not realize that that's what they're doing. I am seeing an awakening though as well. There's been, especially fans of American artists like Sierra and Beyonce are coming out and going like, these artists are really pushing this, I'm a single woman, I don't need a man, you know, I'll do it all on my own. Yet they're married women. And now these girls coming out going, hang on, like, how can you be pushing this single baby mama lifestyle and you're married to billionaires and millionaires? It's like, you know, we're not going to follow it anymore. So at least people are waking up to not being just kind of overawed by idols and holding them to account.
Yeah, and it's really important. And one of the things my wife used to say about my music, she said, people won't like them. You know, you're not going to be successful because it's too positive, it's too uplifting, it's too, it's not victimhood music at all. It's about, you know, taking responsibility and no, it's not about that, but, you know, the energy behind that music was certainly, you know, this is I have the power and I might be hurting, you know, and that's why I like the blues and even country music and folk music. Definitely, it's simplifying and finding the strength and acknowledging that there's the human stories, but saying, oh, I have the power and connectivity too. You know, not this sort of I'm all alone and only I'm going to make it, you know, if I do this or that. Like it's there's a more, life's more subtle than that. There's more colours, and yeah, I think that all industry tries to simplify and goes for the lowest common denominator. You know, like what can we get people, and that's why, you know, fear sells, and why the news is so addictive to people, because they feel like they've got to know every tragedy that's happening, and have you heard about this tragedy and that tragedy, and that's why I don't watch the news, and that's why I do my affirmation coaching, because I want to say to people and give them the alternative, you know, for 24 minutes, instead of watching the horrors of the world, listen to someone say how wonderful you are and remind you of all the dreams you have in the present tense, and let's feed your subconscious a beautiful image, so when you turn that off, you feel good about life and you start collecting the evidence, to use that phrase again. You know, you start going out in the world and seeing all the reasons why your dreams are coming true and why you're going to do what you want to do and why it's a beautiful dream to have and why you're perfect as you are, even as you're changing, you know. And that's a total different reverberation, amplification than watching dramas and tragedy from other countries where, we can have empathy for people. It's, it's not about not having empathy, but it's about being present too. And like I'm in the northern rivers of New South Wales in Byron Bay, and we had floods here a year ago. Almost, it's like they were in March, I believe, or April. Anyway, and the floods were terrible for people, and there was loss of life, and there was loss of people's homes, and it was a disaster. And people are still recovering from it now. But the people came together, and we helped each other, and neighbours helped neighbours that don't talk to each other or didn't know each other, and it brought people together, and we found a way through it. And we healed after, and there's probably healing still going on. But then to turn the news on and see, that there's a flood in New Zealand or an earthquake in Turkey or whatever, and then to be living the tragedy there, it's unnatural. It's natural to have empathy, but it's unnatural to fill your life with every tragedy. We've got the capacity to handle what happens where we are. This is what I believe. So that's why I brought the flood up. We got through the flood. No one wanted it. It was a disaster, right? You don't want natural disasters or whatever they are. But we've got the strength and resilience to get through it. And that's part of life. But it's not part of life to then put your mental attention on the fact that someone else is going through that thing, and to bring up that emotion of what that was like for you because you're watching it on the television. And then, but wait, there's another one, and it's over here, and this next. It's just exhausting. No wonder people are exhausted and brainwashed into just, well, this is the solution. Okay, there's this thing now, and it's this. Look at these people falling over dead in the street, and watch out, if you don't want that happening to you, you've got to do this. You've got to, don't worry about what you want or looking into what's in it. You've got to take this stuff and let us put it into your arm, because then this won't happen. You won't fall over the street like they are in China. And this hysteria that comes, you go, oh, okay, well, people are inert. I mean, they can't move from the terror. And because they're not moved from their center, their own center. They're moved from a center that is taken from them, that's captured, on this screen. It's just like, if you didn't watch the television, you would, over the last 3 years, imagine what your life would be like. This up and down roller coaster of fear and solution, problem, solution. What do they call that? The dialect,
Hegelian dialectic.
Hegelian dialectic. Yeah, we'll present the problem and the solution. We'll present the poison and the so-called cure, etc., etc. If you didn't watch the television, they couldn't get into your head. You wouldn't know. You just go, oh, it rained a bit today. Oh, the sun came out. Oh, it's a beautiful day today. I'm going to go to the beach, or I'm going to go to the Hampstead Heath and walk through the heath and look at the birds playing. And oh, look, there's lovers over there sitting down having a picnic. And there's so much beautiful. So many beautiful things happening all around us all the time. And, the classic example is of people with their head down in their phone, and just wherever they are, and just missing out on the magic of life that is still all around us. And
The past 3 years, if you didn't really see the power of the media and what it can lead you to believe, just happened right in front of you. And you can see the memes that go around where they've got a face of a person that's just getting hypnotized, and there's just like a different kind of little toggle on the end depending on what they're being hypnotized with, because it was like literally like a switch where people get hypnotized by one thing, or they get triggered by a certain word or someone's name, and then suddenly all of a sudden we're meant to be upset about, I've been to Ukraine twice because I went out there and did gigs. That's why I know where it is. It's amazing how flags came up, and like you're saying, this real feeling and this outpouring and this the way that social media gets used for this, just signaling how virtuous you feel about this thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then bringing it into your home, and causing rifts and misunderstanding with people who are right in front of you, breathing that you can touch, and yet for some reason, like, you want to give your authority and your mind power out to like you say, a screen that when you turn it off, there's like nothing there, and you turn it on, there's a bit of electric, and it's completely running your life. And the power of it was, you know, I not always saw how it would kind of sway people left and right. For the most part, I've grown up without a television, but that was just on another level. I couldn't believe to the extent. But in the same way, it just, if you could just explain to those people the power of their minds, if they can just separate the fact that if you looked out the window, we weren't seeing the catastrophes that we were seeing in a wet market in China. So that wasn't happening here. And yet you were scared to your bones about what you were being told, because you were being fed it. And then you got to the point where you wanted to get more and more and more and more of it. And what did you get out of it? Fear and the ultimate deception, where, you know, you probably drank the Kool-Aid, which is like one of the worst things ever. And that's a lot for people to be culpable for, that self-deception. But by the same token, if you can see that this thing ran your mind, it's like, well, if your mind can be programmed to go one way, then isn't it possible that it can be programmed to go another way? But people don't really see that. I know that many people will struggle with affirmations in particular, like you said before. The subconscious mind will be like, no, you know, will always kind of throw the doubt, because you're sitting there going, I'm abundant, I'm wealthy, I'm financially free, and you're like, no, I'm overdrawn by 300 quid. So, you know, how can you deal with that? So what would be the kind of first steps that you would bring to people to say, I know that your subconscious mind is going to fight it, you're going to be skeptical that there's anything that can possibly happen to this? What are those little bits that you can start to do to make it a possibility and open up to the fact that it can happen for you?
I think it's all about appreciation. I think it's about gratitude. I think it's about looking for what is working in your life and not what's not. Give attention to, there you go, you just had a sip of the tea.
Yeah.
It's right. Was that nice?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Chamomile.
Did it smell nice? I can smell it as soon as you say chamomile, right? So I can smell that. So my brain's going, I know what the chamomile, like, it's relaxing. It's how can you be tense when you're drinking chamomile? I think it's impossible. But anyway, bringing your attention to whatever feels good in your life. Chamomile. Look at this. I can make myself any tea I want. I'm abundant in choice for tea, right? Like, find something that is, one of my favorite authors, Stuart Wilde, used to talk about the leaves on the trees. If you want to start thinking about abundantly, think about nature and think about how many leaves are on that tree just there. You couldn't count them, you know, out the window. Blades of grass. You know, it's about looking at the world in a different way. We are programmed, and particularly if you watch the television, for fear and lack and shame, unworthiness. I'm not worthy of this. So I have this shame, and, you know, being poor, you know, being rich isn't really celebrated in our culture. It looks like it is. It's like it's revered in some ways, but it's not celebrated, because that means you're independent. If you're rich, you can make your own choices, and controlling forces who benefit from us being slaves, basically, or a lot of people being blind followers of, you know, whatever it is, and paying the subscriptions, whatever it is. Empowerment, being truly empowered and being financially independent, is not generally celebrated, but we can celebrate it ourselves. We can look and say, when we're paying for a coffee or whatever, and do it with joy, and know that the energy that you use to get that money, you're sending off, and you're getting something in return, and there's a beautiful exchange there. And it's about bringing our awareness to the sacredness of everything, really. and putting our attention on appreciation. I'm sure that's what helped me when I was living in that bed sit and paying rent month to month from the money I earned at the acoustic trip. I started washing dishes and cooking, short order cooking, frying whatever it was and putting in baked potatoes in the microwave at the Lock Tavern. They refurbed it. I think it's really fancy now if it's still there, but it wasn't fancy back in 1999, 2000, whatever it was. It was pretty divey. I just needed to get some job. I had, pretty much run out of money, and so I was washing dishes and microwaving potatoes. And then there's this room upstairs, and it wasn't being used, and it had lots of old chairs in it, and like I said, Dog Poo, the big Great Dane that used to wander around there and use that for his toilet. And I had run a small acoustic songwriter night in Melbourne before going to London, because I was moving from playing in cover bands, and I only wanted to do my own songs, and so I was creating a new way to do that. And this is before the new acoustic movement. I was right on the cutting edge, actually, when I came over. There was a thing called the new acoustic movement for a while in the early 2000s. But anyway, I said to the governor of the pub, I said, can I tidy up this room and maybe put on some music? And he said, yeah, sure. And so I did that, and I started doing that. So what I'm talking about is I focused on what I could do with what I had. And what I could do was clean up a dirty old room. I could use my energy, and I could clean up that room, and then I could say, I'm singing some songs. Does anyone else want to? And someone said, yeah, I want to. And then the room was pretty much packed. So I said, well, can people pay £1 to come in? Honestly, it started with £1, and then £2, and then £3. And I think the top we got up to was £5, and that was when we had bands on. But I did that, and I would collect the money at the door. I hired a PA, I can't remember, like £60 or something. I don't know how long I had it for. But then I found someone who would let me pay it off. It was £240 for a very small PA, and she'd let me pay it off. My point is, bit by bit, I built up this thing. Then I gave up. I didn't need to wash the dishes anymore. I was making enough from 2 nights a week to pay my rent and to write music every day. And I'd come home from that night and I'd count my money on the table. I didn't have time to count it there, and because also there's that Kenny Rogers song, "Never count your money when you're sitting at the table." So I'd put it in my pockets and run home or get the tube home and go, "How much do we make tonight?" So I started giving attention to the money I was making. It wasn't a lot, but it was a lot to me because I could pay my rent, which was really cheap at the time, £60, through doing what I was choosing to do. The affirmations, your actions are affirmations, of course, as well as words. And if I was doing "I am financially free" or I'm good with money now, because maybe I had a belief that I wasn't. I certainly didn't give attention to money up until that point in any way, because I was a creative one, and that doesn't matter to me. And I had all those stories going that because I'm an artist, I don't have to live in the world and worry about expenses and things like that. But the reality of that situation was not true when I was living in London. It was like, you're all by yourself, mate. You've got to find a way to make this work. So affirmations were essential to me because they were about affirming what I wanted, affirming what I did have. And that's what I would say to people who think that what they say, first of all, you've got to understand that everything you say and do is an affirmation. Everything that comes out of your mouth is an affirmation. If you ever catch yourself saying, I am, I just, this is how this is how I am, this is what I do, this is just what I am. They're all affirmations that you are affirming. You're saying to yourself, you're repeating, this is how it is for me. And it's all wrapped up in identity, and you'll hear people saying it all the time. This is just what I do. I don't even want to say it in this, I'm not good with money. I can't say that because I even in telling a story, I'm great with money, because I'm great with money. I'm going to say it 3 times. I am great with money, because the subconscious is hearing it, doesn't know the difference between make-believe. Oh, Ben's just on a podcast. He's just telling a story. Doesn't know the difference. It's going, wherever I am, whatever you're feeding me, I'm taking it in. And whatever I hear the most, that's what I'm going to believe. If you're open to using affirmations or thinking that affirmations are real, and they are, Everything you say and do is an affirmation. And in a way, everything you see is an affirmation as well. So if you're watching a show and it's saying, this is what the world's like, and you're watching it, you're giving it your attention, you're affirming a belief in that. Now you can say, oh, I'm not. It's a make believe. Listen to what it is. It's make believe. It's making you believe. It's making you believe that some people with guns shoot other people with guns and they die, or whatever. Whatever you focus on expands. Choosing what life you want, and focusing on that, celebrating what you have already, affirming, starting with the gratitude with what you have. I've got a roof over my head. I've got a computer screen. I've got a phone I can use to learn new skills. There's so many ways that you can start to realize that you can affirm a beautiful new life for yourself in everything you say and everything you do.
That's so good. And reminding me of when I think we mentioned it before, or I meant to mention it before, when we're talking about gratitude, when I always used to be so thankful when I found that word that would fit in a lyric. I used to be very, very specific about what I'd write. I'd have thesauruses and go backwards and forwards, and I'd try and be really kind of like nuanced with the way that I structured things. And I always knew that there was some word somewhere, even though it just wasn't the ones that everyone would use. But when the sense of satisfaction that when I actually found that word and it fitted in, and I kind of sing it in a way that made it fit, whatever it took to kind of like massage it in, the sense of gratitude that gave me. But also, it was also a confirmation from a very young age that there was more going on than just this, because I was in communion with it all the time. It would wake me up in the middle of the night and give me ideas. And, I had to take action. I had to follow through on it and make it tangible. And it gave me that, it gave me the confidence to think that I could go and do it and be all these things that I wanted to be. And in my mind, I was just like, people hadn't caught on yet. That's the way that I saw it. And now just kind of pivoting it into something else, and knowing that opening up to those little bits of ideas that you have, those kind of, there's one thing that I will always remember. And I've probably embellished the story more than it was, but I remember this one morning. I lived in Forest Hill at the time, but I remember waking up in the morning and lying in bed and just having this entire song play from start to finish, with the entire arrangement, with all the lyrics. And I was like, that's amazing. That song's so beautiful. Oh my God, that's just the best thing ever. And what I did was like, I went back to bed and went, when I wake up, I'll write it.
Oh no. See you later.
So, it went and landed in someone else's head. Luckily for me, I never remembered it enough to then hear it coming out of the radio or good. Something going like, that should have been me. But, I've never because that happened to me. And I remember just lying there, just going, this is beautiful. Where's it coming from? I heard the entire thing. And I just went, when I wake up, I'll write that down.
Well,
so that might have been the gateway. Yeah, but also it makes me laugh now, because I did then later get a kind of start to finish song where I wrote it from start to finish and probably change one word, but it's rarely ever happened. But it just also just really enforced the reinforced the power of that space of whatever you want to call it, attribute it to God, spirit, inspiration, whatever, that if you attune to it and then just follow, just put it down somewhere, or even just kind of mumble on your phone, try and growl it out or something, and just put it into this existence, that we're constantly being fed all of this stuff, all of these ideas all the time that can change our lives. And I think everybody, whether, whatever it is that you do as your level of expression, you get those life-changing ideas constantly. Like you're not, you might be turned off to it, you might be trying to ignore it, but it always will. There's always something coming through that will just remind you that, you can create something different. And because people don't get taught that and don't build up a trust in that, then they don't realize, I think, that if they then sit in front of a TV for like however many hours a day and just consume all of that stuff, that they are being programmed, because they sit down in front of the TV and they literally just kind of go into relaxed alpha mode, and then it's, you know, you can pour anything in there, and it comes out of people's mouths. You know, you see people speaking about characters on television as if they're people that they know in real life. It's really concerning, you know. But obviously the people who have the control of the media and the output that kind of feeds the subconscious of the masses truly understand how programmable we are, and will just keep you infused and addicted to it enough to kind of, like you say, steer your life. If you're not thinking that you've got anything, if you've not got anything in mind, then they've got plenty in mind for you.
In mind, they sure do.
Yeah.
They put it in your mind. And that's another, you touched on a really great idea for people who are open to affirming a new life for themselves, and abundance is often a subject that people feel they don't have enough of. Money, that's going to give me freedom. You have to plug into the idea that you're free now, and that the abundance is yours now. And the abundance of ideas, if you, the source is always communicating with us, as you said. If we choose not to listen, that's our choice. So if you want to feel abundant, just acknowledge all the wonderful ideas you have. And to acknowledge them is not just to say, oh, you've got great ideas. Write them down. Start to explore them. Take notes, record them on your phone, start to pay attention to the source that is always feeding you an abundance of creativity. And it'll express in its own unique way through you, and it has to. And you have a unique gift to bring to this world. And your unique gift can make you lots of money, can bring you freedom, can bring you joy, can bring you in touch with people you don't know yet, can bring you wonderful experiences, and it's all within you. And you can pay attention to it now, and you can write it down right now. You can write down an idea, a thought, a dream, something you've wanted to try, something you've wanted to do, something that confuses you and you've got the answer to. Why do we do it this way when I think we should do it that way? That's source talking to you. There's so much. It's always going on. Sometimes at the moment, I'm trying to go to bed or turn my computer off, and I get an idea from somewhere else. I'm watching a TikTok and I get an idea. Yeah, I should do it more like that. I could do it like that. That's a great idea. I want to write. Oh, that's another book I want to write. I'm going to write that book, and it doesn't stop. It's the ideas. The inspiration is coming, and that's when you tune into it. So start tuning into it. Look at the apple before you bite into it, and think about how wonderful it is that this apple exists, and how there's an abundance of apples in the world, and you've got one of them, and how rich you are and how juicy it is. You've got to get into the sensuality of life, appreciate getting back into your body and feeling it, and being thankful for your body, being affirming, you know, I'm strong, I always sleep well, I wake up refreshed. Find ways that work for you, that you can believe that you are affirming your beautiful life today.
And it's amazing how having that outlook on things that are just surrounding us and so simple can give you so much, and just put you in such a happy mood where, like, you know, yeah, all of this stuff's happening. Yeah, I see what they're doing. Yeah, I know. There comes a point where it's like, okay, then what are we going to do? Because it's, you know, you can get led by the brain down into a dark hole of dystopia if you want, or we've got the opportunity to kind of veer off and really create something. And like, when have we ever felt that empowered at the crux of this turning point, to be able to go, actually, we're not going to go that, we're not going to do that, we're going to start from whatever we've got. And then, like you say, what we've got is actually quite a lot, really. more than people can ever truly comprehend, if they don't pull away from that which is feeding them all of those lower vibration lies, basically, because none of it's true. None of it has ever been true, actually, if it comes to it.
So many lies, and they have to be lies because life is abundant. Life is beautiful and loving. You know, anyone who's been anywhere near a child being born, seen a baby come into a family, and the love that comes out from everyone and from everywhere. One of the things that helped me to empower myself was something I learned through Buddhism, actually, and it was about impermanence. It was about, there's a meditation about I may die today. At the moment of my death, my family can't help me. At the moment of my death, my possessions can't help me. At the moment of my death, whatever. And it goes on. I can't remember it precisely. But the point of that meditation is to bring you into the present and realize that all we have is this moment today. And if it helps, and I think it does, it can really help people to think, what is my day? If my life is only going to be today, if this is my last day that I'm alive, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to watch the news? It makes me almost physically sick thinking about it. Am I going to sit myself down and eat junk food and booze and get high, watch the horrors on news, and then watch a fictionalized version of a war that was probably caused for a certain reason that you have no idea about, but it's a lie, and it's teaching you to believe in authority that has no authority over you, and you are your authority, you are the power, and this is your day. This is your day. Do you have a king or a queen over you today? No, you're the sovereign. You are. This is your world. Is there a religious leader or a guru who you need to go to today who's more important than you putting your feet in the grass and feeling it and looking at the sun and feeling the sun on your face and acknowledging that you are a child of the universe and you have a right to be here as much as anyone? This is your day. It's just today. It's all you've got. Think like that. You'll find something to be grateful for. It reminds me of when I went bungee jumping once over concrete in a city when I was doing a play. I don't know how.
Oh, wow.
I was young and foolish. We were sitting there. I think we were having a beer. My co-actor and I, and we looked up and, should we do it? Yeah, let's do it. We didn't think, thank God. But when we got up to the top, and I've got my things, the bungee on my ankles, I looked at the guy next to me and I said, I love you. I love you, mate. And I was sincere. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it now. I never met the guy before. He was just the last person part of me thought I was ever going to see, right? And what was the last message that came up, that bubbled up from me? It was just love. I love you, mate. I don't know who you are. I didn't even say that. All I said was I love you. And then he pushed me off. No, he didn't push me. He just it was my turn to jump. And I jumped. That is an example for me of that intense feeling and awareness that life is precious, and we don't know how long we got. To me, it's the whole reason people were so duped into putting poison into their body, because they haven't confronted the mortality. You know, right. I'm going to live forever if I do this. You know, and they're going to load my brain up to a hard drive. You know, and all these concepts that take us out of the natural, where we are now in the sacred moment, which is right now, and we've got so much to be grateful for, and we can live our life how we choose today, and we only have today. Make today the best day of your life. It is the best day of your life because you're alive. You only have today to live.
There's nothing I want to add to that, really. It's just that reminder of the lengths that people are going to live and yet not living, you know, yes. That was that's the thing. It's like you don't want to die, but then you're not living, because if you were living, you would see that was not the way to live. You know, it wouldn't really make sense. So you're like holding on to this existence, that perpetual fear that you're just like stuck to, like your hands are stuck to like an ice bar or something, like you just can't let go of. It's painful for you, but yet you don't want to let go of it because, I don't know, this feels more real than not holding on to it. The other side of it is just, it's ease filled, and it's you laugh way more. Even when things get stupid, you do laugh. You know, you get frustrated as well, but there are elements of going, this is ridiculous, and in its own way it's funny too. You know, what a time to be around. And what have you got, before we finish, to just speak on where we're at with how we can all really contribute to moving ourselves into something as positive as possible, knowing that we can't ever convince anyone, we can't wake anybody up, but maybe by example we can be in a space that, for the few that kind of want to know what those weirdos are doing over there and why do they seem so happy, might actually want to come over and go, what are you guys doing? It's like the world is ending. Why are you so happy? What can you give to those ones who are just like, you know, the saying of those who were seen dancing were thought to be crazy by those who couldn't hear the music.
Well, Carol, you've answered it. Just keep dancing. We must just keep dancing and dance with more joy in our heart. And we only can control ourselves, and we can only fill ourselves up with as much love as we can muster. We can only open our hearts up as much as we are willing. And the great realization I've had over the last few years, and I am so thankful for it, is that you can't worry about what other people are doing. You can't worry about what other people are thinking. You can't worry about what they think you're thinking, because there's no power in that. There's no power in that, because you are reacting. You know, I've been listening to some Abraham Hicks a lot lately, and the central message that she has, Esther Hicks, who speaks as Abraham, if people aren't aware of her, them, the first great pronouns, sorry, is that we are creative, and that affirmations and are creative. I create the world I want. I don't react to it. And that's what we can do. Just keep creating the world you want. What is the world you want? And create that for yourself. And like you said, Carol, that's us dancing. And people, you know, they will or they won't, but some will go, hey, I want to dance like you're dancing. And you say, well, just dance your own way and dance your way wherever you want to come. And you want to come over here, dance over here. I hope you do, because I love you and I'll happily dance with you. And if you want to dance somewhere else, I love you and keep dancing. And I think that mindset too can help us to understand, I'm getting quite emotional here, that everyone is dancing and they're doing a dance we don't want to do. And so all we do is don't put our attention on that anymore. You want to dance to watching the news and believing the dystopia and all those things, you know, oh yeah, but you're just putting your head in the sand and this is really happening. Okay, it's happening for you. It ain't happening for me. I've got a beautiful life and I've created that by creating it, by focusing on what I want and putting my energy into that. And I'll be patient for you to have your experience, but I don't really want to be around it. I'm not really going to have those conversations because I don't want to put my energy on that. And if you invite me around to your house and you've got the television on all the time, well, I'll find a reason not to be there anymore, because I can love you and let you create your reality, but you're not creating mine. I am, and I create that by my choices. It reminds me of a friend I had years and years ago, and when we were partying hard in our 20s, and you'd all go, it was very much a group mentality, right? When we're the gang and we're all going, what are we doing tonight? We're going there, and this is what we're doing, and we're doing, what time are we leaving, and where are we going, what are we drinking, and what drugs are we doing, whatever it is, you know, we're doing this because we're a group mind. And he was the one who would just, where's Cameron gone? He would just leave and unannounced, and he was one of the first people I knew who had that sense of his own authority. He's like, I don't need to ask permission, I don't need to apologise, I don't need to explain, I don't need to tell anyone. And did we stop loving him? No, we probably admired him and loved him more because he had some quality which we knew that instinctively that was going to make him a great success in life, you know. And it reminds you of that. Just be like that. Just go where you need to go. And when you have that voice, just pay attention to it. And it's going to take you into the world that you want to live. And you're going to be amazed, and you're going to cry, and the tears are going to fall down your face, because you're going to go, oh, I'm turning up for myself. I'm creating my life. This is how it is. It's a choice at a time. It's a focus at a time. It's a turn of your head. It's a turn of your head. Taking a second not to say what you always say in that situation, or to reply to that question, and it's thinking for a second, what do I consciously feel about this? What do I want to say? What am I going to affirm for my life with the next word that comes out of my mouth?
Thank you so much for this conversation. It could go on for so much longer. But before you go, can you just share with everybody what your work is, how they can contact to work with you?
So my website is your-ultimate-path.com, and that's for the Personalised, Affirmations, Theta, Hypnosis. I love acronyms. And that's Path, and it's Your Ultimate Path, and that's where I can create a recording for you of affirmations that are based on, there's a questionnaire you fill in, an online questionnaire, and that helps me get to know you and find out how I'm going to speak to you in this recording, basically, and coach you privately. I also have an Instagram for Grant Empowerment Coaching, because Grant's my middle name, and I like the idea of granting empowerment to ourselves. And that's on Instagram, and that's really yourultimatepath.com would be the best place to check out what I'm doing, because that's where I am right now, where all my energy's going, and how I just love that I get to spend my days saying beautiful things to people and then they get to listen to them and feel good about themselves and get that subconscious reprogrammed for the best life ever.
Thank you, Ben, for a fantastic conversation, and thank you for listening. Once again, to remind you, if you're interested in working with me with my spiritual life coaching, you can find a link to that in the show notes, or you can go directly to my website, carolmaywhittick.com, carolmaywhittick.com, and you can find all of my information of all of my things there. Also, you can find me on Facebook, carolmaywhittick.com, on Instagram under Casmic, CAZMICK, and the Telegram group is Her Conversations and Inspirations. Enjoy your week, and we'll catch up next time. Take care.